Hi, everybody. So my name is Michael Morgan, and I am super excited to be with you all today. My good friend Dr. Gershom has just had kind of an emergency situation. However, I believe he will be joining us later. So I've moved his slides to the end of our deck here. Quick little introduction for myself. So I'm currently a program director at the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitations, which means that I work with incarcerated persons. And one of the programs that I've been running for the last 3 years has been an entrepreneurship and leadership training program with primarily men in the Southern California region who are being rehabilitated into becoming firefighters for the state of California. Um, for those, oh yeah, thank you, Kelly. My background is been an entrepreneur for many years. I've worked in technology, primarily SaaS and software, and then a lot of social entrepreneurship. So I helped to start an education program in the nation of Kenya, particularly environmental education in outside of Nairobi in a place called Kitengela. The name of the program is called Citizens of the World, and we did some really neat stuff with a bunch of young people who are now going on to become the leaders of that great country. Kenya is a really unique reference point. I'm going to be referring to a lot of things in this conversation in the context of Africa. And the reason why I do that is because I've been working in Africa, primarily as a product manager for a large technology company education technology company in the country of Nigeria for the last 10 years, but also because I believe that the future of the world is in Africa. It's on the continent. And by the year 2050, that continent, more than the United States, China, or any other location in the world, will have the world's largest purchasing power. That is a context that I'm going to be sharing within. And then hopefully, if Dr. Gershom joins us, he's going to be sharing from his perspective as well as an entrepreneur from the country of Zambia. And we're just going to have a good time here. Thank you so much again for everybody who's joined. And let me do one quick thing. I'm going to shoot a couple messages here. I guess I think I've viewed a few of these at Founders Bay before, and so if there are questions, there's going to be three pauses in the presentation. It's split into section one, section two, and section three. I will be pausing during the end of each section for us to have some back and forth and some conversations, questions, comments, anything that the audience would like to bring. So let me just do this. And again, super happy to have you all joining us. I think this is going to be really fun. I've thought about this like a lot, and it's going to be great to be able to articulate some of this. Quick little intro here. Hopefully this will come through. Maybe not. It's a book called Inspired by an author named Marty Kagan. A lot of the ideas that I'm going to be pulling from in this presentation are from this book. He references a number of other books there, but he's from the Silicon Valley Group. They're based in Silicon Valley, and they have an incredible number of resources for product managers. With that said, let's hop into it. All right, so I'm going to introduce this presentation with the three principles of 21st century product vision. So, if you can see this slide, there's a lot happening there. This will probably be the busiest slide that we have in this presentation until the end. I'm no design master myself, but I do appreciate the elements of design. So on the left hand, you'll see Lagos, Nigeria. Again, that's where I've been working for the last 10 years. And if you don't know, Nigeria has the largest population of AI users in the entire world today. So the most people who are using AI tools are located in the west coast of Africa, primarily in Lagos, Nigeria. So any time you're using AI, think about a million other people who are using AI, who are the average age of a Nigerian is 17 years old. The average age of an African across the continent in all 54 countries of Africa is 18 years old. I'm sorry, is 17 years old, 1 year younger, actually. And then on the right is where I'm situated right now. I'm in Venice Beach, California, and we're going to be hosting the Olympics in the next couple of years. So I'm thinking about products in context. And so these are three contexts that I'm constantly thinking about. Where I live and the environment around me, that's Venice Beach. The fact that the entire world is going to be coming to Venice. So I'm going to be talking about some user testing that I'm doing on an app that I'm building. And then on the left is Lagos, Nigeria. And I'm always thinking about how a product would be viewed and how it would be used um, in Legos. So let's talk about these new principles of 21st century product vision in an age of AI where everything is instant production. The first is to shift from command to context and coordination. So, command is controlling the app, controlling the experience, controlling things from kind of a hierarchical view, which we're going to be speaking of more from an organizational standpoint. That is changing and it has basically changed. It's no longer about us as developers or us as producers or us as visionaries casting this vision that is controlling and commanding everybody who's using our app. What it's really more about is how we're properly putting it in the context of the needs of our users and then coordinating how all of that comes together. The second point is latent demand over roadmaps. So there's a pretty well-known, fairly clunky hierarchical way of building roadmaps which many large institutions are still using today. But that is changing. It's really more about what are the demands, what are the needs of users. We can see a lot of this happen in our social media world. There's constant pivots and constant additions and kind of ancillary features that are put into the apps that we all use on a daily basis. And with AI, that has only massively accelerated. And then the last one is really for the entrepreneurs and for the everyday builder. And that is the fact that every person on this call right now, you are all product managers. And many of you probably know what product managers do. Some of you may have even had clashes with product managers, or maybe you had great experiences working with them. But the product manager sits along with kind of directly reporting to a CEO or a visionary founder. And they work with one primary chief designer, and they work with one or two, in smaller cases, primary chief engineers. And then that product manager is sort of the interpreter of both the design and the technical structures of an app or a software or a product within the tech world. So everybody here, and I do want to quickly just refer, thank you again, Kelly, Lily, Amit, Ansley, Kate, Jim, Wilson, Sweta, Shahab, Jennifer, Sunil, Hector, iPhone 13 Pro Max, of course. You all are all product managers. And so in the context of that, also Alu Mayawa, so good to see you, my friend. Mayawa is a good friend of mine and a few others as well. So we're here to inspire a mission and not a mercenary culture. This whole vision of being product evangelists, we've had that since before the Apple days, but Apple really took that to the next level. Every single person within your startup, within your company, you are all now called to not just, inspire the mission, but it's also to understand how products work, because we all have these AI tools that we're capable of using. So every single person then who uses a product, and when you're building, you have sort of a double hat, a double identity that you have. You have a builder and a user. You're genuinely wanting to help users to make the vision meaningful to them, not just to you, and then you kind of like demanding that people see the product as you do. But it's really trying to understand how others see the product. Navigating market trends and disruptions. Disruption is happening every single day on a scale that probably in technology has never been seen before, and I suspect that it's only going to accelerate. We're going to get into some very specific examples of that in a little bit. But what I see happening is you having to be almost like a fortune teller prophetic mind in order to see where things are going. For myself, I can honestly and humbly say I have probably always been about 10 years ahead of the curve. And that has worked out for me because I've acknowledged that as both a strength and a weakness. And I've seen that there is a serious need for toning myself down as a visionary and working with people who are much more grounded in the world around us in the present age, so to speak. Sometimes I've done that very well. Other times I've not done that so well. Um, but I'm still kicking as an entrepreneur, literally 15 years into being a multi-exit entrepreneur. Um, it's working out. Product strategy fundamentals. Focus on one target market or persona at a time for each release. So this is actually something Marty Kagan talks about in a wonderful way and how he does and focuses on user interviews. So if any of you are in a startup where you have a product, you're actually interested in getting feedback from users, he separates three categories of users and then how you approach them. One is the user test, where you're not like running everything for them and you're not telling them what to think and how to think about your product. You really are completely hands off in this form of user testing, and you just watch them from start to finish how they engage with your product, and you do it without trying to force anything on them. The second is walkthroughs in the whole product space. And that's when you do the kind of opposite, where you really walk them through every single step of the process of the product. And if you think of it as something like, let's talk about Uber or Waymo quickly, the user experience does not start the moment the person presses a button on an app. The user experience starts before that. It starts when the person starts to think about using your app or planning on using your app. And so that's a pretty good example of how spaced out and how long the trajectory of the user experience can go, far beyond when they're just in an actual phone or on a phone. Um, and then you have the product demo, which is also one that really is about showing people selling that product. That's a very different thing. And so, as a product manager, if we're all product managers now, every single time a person is using your product, even your website, you can think about these three ways to reach people. Is this a product demo that I want for them? Is this a user test that I want for them as a walkthrough? And what do they want? And we're living in a wonderful age of consent and inclusivity. And so we see it, at least here in the state of California, we see it reflected in the way that we're treating one another, how marginalized people's groups have been able to experience and flourish in new ways and experience success, prosperity, and equality. I think we should be thinking the same way within the technology space about our users, which has not always been the case. But there's a lot of success and there's a lot of, I think, wealth and growth that can happen by approaching things with that perspective. So we want to, it's kind of extending what I was just saying. We want to obsess over customers. We really do want to do the very best that we can for them. And we want to not think intensely about competitors. Don't be paranoid. Don't be thinking about the person who might be releasing the app or the product that's just like yours, and don't focus too much on what other people are doing. You want to focus on taking care of your customers. So, product discovery, this is a fun little stage. Again, this comes from the Silicon Valley Group. There's four critical risks within the discovery process that you're addressing: the value of your product, the usability of your product, the feasibility of your product, and the business viability of your product. What you want to do is really collect evidence, and then this goes, how do you collect the evidence is what I had mentioned earlier within user testing, product demos, and walkthroughs. This is a great strategy that the Silicon Valley Group uses. It's called the opportunity assessment technique. You ask yourself these four questions about your customers and your clients. What is the business objective? How is success measured? What customer problem does it solve? Who is the target market? And as you're building at every iteration and in every stage of development, you continue to ask yourself these questions. You keep them, on a whiteboard in front of you, and you iterate around these questions. So now we get to talk a little bit about a systems issue and a little more current event information. So recently, there was an interview with Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter. Um, excuse me, and he's doing things still with his company Block. And in his announcing a mass number of layoffs, he kind of explained why he's doing things the way that he's doing them. And one of those things is because he believes that the entire structural organizational life of a company is moving away from being one of hierarchy, meaning that you start at a low place, and then you make yourself up a ladder. You climb up a ladder through all sorts of things. Sometimes you hit chutes that drag you down, but instead he comes up with an idea called company as intelligence. The company as intelligence. And so these traditional hierarchies are being replaced. Generally, product managers have been disliked within technology company structures, because they function, unfortunately, they have functioned as middlemen between decision makers, visionaries, leaders, and the rest of the company, and essentially the users. If you look at the largest impact currently, I think in industry of how this is not working, it's probably within the video game world. There are a lot of layoffs that are happening in video game dumb once large companies buy them, because product managers are notorious within the world of video games and video game production of being the ultimate middle manager. Um, the solution to this, for me, is not to cut down and despise product managers. It's to empower every other person on the team, and even the users themselves, the video game players, as product managers. This AI intelligence layer manages information flow in real time. And I think there was just an announcement from Disney recently that this new Avengers movie will be featuring a large number of AI special effects. And consequently, yesterday they announced 1,000 people were laid off from the company. I've worked for Disney in the past. I know the company quite well, and this is their form of adapting to kind of having to compete with technology companies as a streamer. It's not saying it's a good thing, but it's definitely what is happening because of these types of tools. So, we'll just real briefly, I think this is close to the end of the first section. The three core roles of the AI era, you have ICs, those are builders using AI agents to perform the work of entire former teams. So I think there's probably people on this call who have actually done this. I am one of them. I thought to myself, how deep can I go with using these tools? And sure enough, I was able to basically create and launch apps completely by myself into the App Store, and then because software is one of my main things, but other people building products completely by themselves. One of those people who are on this um, built an apparel product. It's actually not exactly an apparel product, but they sold thousands and thousands of these all by themselves, without any help at all. And they are not technical in any way, shape, or form. So these things are happening, and we might as well understand kind of how to best ease into them, and in some cases, turn very quickly into them. So DRIs, owners of specific outcomes on short cycles. So this is kind of the new company, if you think about it this way. These are the people who are looking at every aspect, technical design components. Now, you can still have specialists in this space, meaning you have a design specialist, you have an engineering specialist. But if you're not a design specialist or an engineering specialist, you're basically a product manager, and everybody fits into this space. The final piece here is the player coaches. These are mentors who stay hands-on with creative and technical work. Every single company that has laid off thousands of people recently, which we all have seen it in the news, they are all pulling from this playbook right now. So if people are being laid off, and I don't celebrate that in any way, shape, or form, but if they're being laid off, they can think about their future career trajectory within the context of one of these three core roles, because they shouldn't be thinking of themselves as, like never going to work again. I'm never going to find the same job. They may not find the same job, but they can move into one of these three roles. And player coaches is a really core component of the AI era because if you are fired and you don't know how to use these tools, you are in a great position to learn how these tools work. But in order to do that, you need someone probably to help you, mentor you in some way, shape, or form. And that's exactly what player coaches do. And just like what happens in sports, just like what happens when we're younger, anywhere from probably 6 to 16, playing sports and things like that, we're being coached and developed. When you go through that process, you are in a great position to coach other people about these exact major changes that are happening within industry. Okay, and then this is a little section here about company as intelligence. So again, this comes from the Jack Dorsey. I'm going to try to drop this link in here for everybody if you have not read the Jack Dorsey interview. Um, the goal that Jack Dorsey is discussing here is a mini AGI where collective intelligence, software and people function as a single organism. So that is basically happening now. It's happening in the world that we're living in. Actually, if anyone else wants to just Google really simply Jack Dorsey, company as intelligence, and then drop that in. I don't want to disrupt the flow of my share, but it should be really easy if once one person finds it. It should come up primarily. There's a Sequoia Capital. It's at sequoiacap.com. And then there's a bunch of other articles about it. He also posted it on Block just last month, March 31st. So for those who want to find that, I'll let you do that. And again, this is reducing management layers to increase, like massively increase productivity, but also just the information flow and making sure things are not stuck in silos. Okay, so I'm going to pause there real quick. Thank you so much for letting me go on for a number of minutes here. I would love to hear, and also before I do, there is some wisdom. Um, let's see. I'm going to pop into the chat here. There's definitely some wisdom to be gained from any of this. Would anyone in the, oh, nice. Thank you so much, Kelly. I'm now going to see these questions. So thank you. I'm looking at my other screen. Aren't program managers the middlemen? Which tool did you use to build your apps? Okay, great question, Amit. Thank you. Aren't program managers? Oh, like me at CDCR? In my case, definitely not a middleman, because I work with prison guards who have guns on them. And their whole perspective is, I mean, it shouldn't be this way. Basically the largest and most powerful union in the state of California. And they have a very adversarial relationship, by definition, with the incarcerated people who I work with. So in my case, and maybe in a number of manager positions, program managers are supposed to be coming in, at least in my case they are. But I'm not really employed by CDCR. So in my case, I think it's a little different. What tools do I use? So I can briefly share those. And if you want to clarify anything about that, Amit, maybe my case is just very unique. But I'm even trying to think like program managers. Like I worked at the MasterCard Foundation in Africa. Their program managers are definitely not middlemen. I mean, they're running programs, but they're being funded by large foundations. And the only way that those funds are being applied are because program managers have the expertise and knowledge that are necessary for those things to even run. But quick thing on tools. So,
Well, if I may clarify,
yeah,
and
please.
my question was more towards the tech companies, the FANG.
Mm.
There's like project managers, product manager, program
Oh,
manager.
project managers. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
so I'm
Maybe you
always
meant.
trying to understand the difference between these three roles.
Yeah.
And my understanding is like you talked about product manager being the middleman between, maybe the business side and the tech side. So I thought that was more falling in the program managers bucket.
But
Program manager.
is that relevant, like going forward, especially for these FANG companies, they're going to be the first.
Mhm.
Jack Dorsey appears to be. unabashedly leading the way, but they're all doing the same thing. So in terms of like the current product roles, there's a website called productschool.com.
Hmm.
And even they're, discussing the whole AI shift. And even within PMI, the project management program management space, they're discussing the whole shift. So the key is to understand what these leaders at Fang are thinking, which we've
Hmm.
gotten a snapshot here, and understand how to get in front of it and get into one of these three roles.
Beautiful, Kelly. Thank you so much. I think the biggest issue with product managers is they get paid pretty well and at these companies. And there are other people who don't get paid as well, but probably work harder than these folks. And I have a friend who's at a very big tech company right now. If I said the name, everybody would know it. And he has felt majorly crushed, if you will, by managers, by middle managers who were brought in from Meta, brought in from Amazon, brought in from other companies. And as their company grew, he, as a designer, he's like a design genius. This guy is brilliant. He has had less and less territory and less authority as manager after manager comes in and starts to basically clean out his whole design team. And he's left standing with a number of other people. He gets moved around. Again, I would say these three core roles are important to understand, but even like non without a working understanding of these large companies, just think about it as, let's call it like generalists, because product managers, generally great product managers are generalists. And they can talk with you about philosophy, and they like liberal arts education is flowing very well through these folks. But their primary purpose is to be able to communicate, connect, and connect the dots really between design worlds and technical worlds. And they have to be like normal humans who can communicate well with visionary CEOs, decision makers. So if you think about it almost like a medieval court or a Middle Eastern court or something in the worlds of royalty back in the more ancient days, they were kind of the seers, if you will, or they should be the seers who can plug in all these moving pieces and then make sure that crises are avoided. And so to your question, Amit, I think that there's a fire burning under these folks, and they're not going to be able to hold on to the same type of authority and maybe accountability structures, et cetera, that they've had in the past. And all major companies right now are thinking about how to change their structures. And these folks are they're in a professional product managers are in a very interesting position right now. And if I were not a product manager, I'd be wanting to think more like a product manager, so I would be able to fill in the types of things that they have been doing traditionally. Um, okay, real quick on the tools. So Replit is a fantastic tool. Again, part of my program is to empower men and women who are incarcerated in California prisons, jails, and conservation camps in order to make them, empower them as entrepreneurs and connect them with investors, to connect them with designers and product developers, programmers, and coders, and to really help them step into these positions. And a great way to do that is through LLMs and IDEs. So Replit, Lovable, Cursor, Claude Code, of course, Gemini AI, Google Studio, um, Codex, all these tools, literally, you can instantly put on a product manager hat if you know how to write and type and then ask the right questions. Um, those are the tools that I've used to build my apps, and there's no one shots right now that I'm using. There are a couple that are getting close, but every app that I put out just took me still around a month. But I mean, the app that I built before that, that did quite well many years ago that took about 2 years. So the same amount of work that I did for the app probably a decade ago that took 2 years now takes me 1 month. Um, and I'm not alone. There's a lot of people who are figuring this out. Quick question from Jim Recker. What happens to SaaS businesses when users, yeah. So I'm going to reference a YouTube video. If I haven't, I will just bring it up real quick. This YouTube video is actually addressing this exact issue, and it's actually, let me see here. So the title of this video is, let's see here. But it's basically SaaS is dead. And I'm gonna try to find this video if someone else can maybe want to help me. Um, it's Claude Code. Um, exec YouTube. Okay, so this particular YouTube video, if you search, it's taking a little second to load here. Anyway, this is a concern, Jim, that Claude Code is not. Oh, here it is. Anthropic's Felix Reisberg, Claude Cowork Mythos. And so this was the Mad podcast with a colleague of mine who I worked with in New York City back with my first app being launched, Matt Turk. He has a great podcast. If you're not familiar with it, I'd highly recommend it. It's more of a New York flavor of things, but it's called The Mad Podcast. Could someone just pop that in real quick? The Mad Podcast with Matt Turk interviewing Anthropic's Felix Reisberg. Jim, is going to answer all your questions much better than I can. But generally, that's the essence and the feeling of what's happening is that SaaS products are rapidly changing. Yeah, thank you so much. So, oh, and then there's Victoria. Hello, hi, how are you doing?
Oh, good. Thank you for
Awesome.
having me. Sorry, I came in at the half.
Oh, yeah, so welcome. So welcome to you joined us. Thank you. Um, cool. And then a quick little comment I want to highlight from Amit there. I think I read that companies are building their own apps instead of using Salesforce. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, those companies, I mean, Oracle just laid off as many people as it did for a reason. All of this is kind of happening. You're amazing, Kelly. Thank you so, so much for your help in the chat here. Lily, how has the role? I feel like I'm a streamer right now. I feel like I show speed or something, and but much more slowly having to deal with these chats. How has the role of a product manager evolved with the rise of AI compared to traditional practices? Great question, Lily. You know, Oh my gosh. I don't think it fully has in the eyes of the consumer. I don't think consumers fully understand what has happened when they use their iPhones and when they are looking for apps in the App Store or thinking about like a cool product that they have. I don't think it's fully hit that all this power has shifted from on high Mount Olympus type of thing, and it's really resting now in a more central place. If not in the Acropolis, the power is sitting at the base of the mountain of Mount Olympus, and that's something that we all have far more access to. Um, the biggest issue that I will bring up from this, Lily, and I hope that I'm answering your question. Um, Time management is still a huge issue. And one of the reasons why you don't see a massive shift away from traditional practices still is because people, companies, corporations, Meta, Disney, Amazon, Snapchat, whatever, Oracle, Salesforce, Microsoft, all these companies have not figured out how to get their hands around or their lassos around traditional time management techniques and how to empower users and builders with 24 hours in a day. And my theory, I'm not gonna don't quote me on this or anything, but maybe I'll write a book about it one day. I believe that we as human beings, time is accelerating in the collective consciousness, which we'll get to at the end here. But I believe that time is changing. Our concepts of time are changing. And that there's some cool economic theory that actually talks about the more that money is being printed and spent and utilized, it actually accelerates the human concept of time, and it's actually attached to money, which is the phrase time and money, right? But I do believe that we are seeing a massive acceleration, and so we are no longer necessarily able to live our lives with just 24-hour periods. I think we may actually go to 168-hour periods of how we think about the most basic building block of our lives. It used to be daily, 24 hours, you sleep a certain amount of time, you produce a certain amount of time, you work from 9 to 5, etc. I think that's changing. I think we're going to find ourselves working in week intervals, and we're going to be living in week intervals rather than in days, 24-hour periods. All right. Thank you, Hector. You're awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, cool.
Oh,
So,
hold on. Can we, hold
yeah,
on. Explain that week. Explain
yeah.
that. Explain that. So we week on, week off, something like that,
Oh, good question.
or we
No,
do week,
it's
or
going to
we
be
do
week
week
by
long
week.
sprints, or we do
Yes,
week long
sister. Week
sprints
by
like
week sprints.
engineers.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
That's cool. Thank.
And no, thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, I think it's going to be 168 hours, and whatever you accomplish in that, that's how your managers, that's how your bosses, that's how you're going to be judged. I think we've been getting close, like inching closer to that over, last 20, 25 years. You have things like the 4-day work week, or, there was some fancy book for a while everyone was reading. I think if you read that book correctly, or you read that book kind of with the same mindset, you'd say, okay, well, that's a no-brainer because you're doing the week's worth of productivity in 4 days. And so if you can do that productivity, if you can accomplish that goal, those goals, those measurements, those metrics, then of course, yeah, like that's your week, but you get to have 3 days off instead of 2 days off, and maybe more. So yeah, thank you so much, Kelly. Awesome. All right, now we're going to switch gears a little bit into our second section. This is a fun section for me. So I am actually a Grammy nominated musical artist, which is kind of amazing to me. And I don't talk about it. I've never posted it on LinkedIn. I've never shared it publicly. You all don't know me, but now you know this thing about me. So I'm a musical person. I've been musical for a long, long time. I had a career in entertainment for a while. I left that career in entertainment to go into tech. But I made an album that was nominated for a Grammy recently, in these last this last Grammy thing. And what's cool is I never used AI ever the entire time I was a musician, ever, not once in my life. All I did was like play piano and play keys and, get on MPCs and build beats and, all sorts of cool music softwares. Um, but now it's a really amazing thing to look at music production in the age of AI. And I think it's a great example of what we're talking about. And something I think we all can relate to, even though we're not all musicians, we all consume music as a product, if that makes sense. So this is a group called Time Weight Bandits. You guys can check them out. That's my good friend Mark Marcel over there. His project is what allowed us all to kind of have this Grammy click. And it's a wonderful group of people who I love, like my brothers and my sisters. There's a Hollywood sign up there at the top. It's not too far from where I live. And after this Grammy opportunity, I started using music. I started using AI for music because I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, I kind of just accomplished like what every artist wants to accomplish. So what's the point? So I use music production tools like Suno for my own enjoyment. And I don't release my music. I don't widely publish it. I have like tons of songs on Spotify and Apple Music and all this. When I make music, I make it for myself. And I put it into playlists that I enjoy listening to. And I don't need the whole world to like, what is the word, validate my musicianship. I've already had that musicianship validated. And I'm also not trying to make a bunch of money. Plus, I'm not even going to make a bunch of money by putting out incredible music. So it really got me thinking about how these tools are being used in music production. So let me walk you all through that. So music production now mirrors advanced software coding. Just as coding is solved via AI in music acts as a force multiplier for rapid creative iteration and execution. So I'm not gonna like give you all my little Suno secrets and whatnot, but I do have a workflow that I use, and it actually I use it as a way to like lift up my day and inspire me and like change my entire perspective on what I'm doing and how I'm doing it because I'm giving myself, music is medicine type of things. I'm giving myself the medicine that I need to just enjoy a bike ride or enjoy a drive across Los Angeles or up to San Francisco recently. And I'm bumping the music that I created because these tools exist and they're pretty awesome. So, the fundamentals don't change. This is the name of my music publishing company. The idea of product management being best understood through music production really clicks here because both require a vision that transcends the tools that are used to build them. That is product management at a T. It's you're taking a step back and you're kind of seeing like 1,000-foot view of this whole situation. Think about it like building a city. One of my recent products which I built for fun as a user of a game called SimCity and as a video game player, I basically started thinking about like how to think about startup companies like cities. And so you have, your power plant over here, that's all your technical stuff. You have your, Museum of Modern Art over here, that's your design center. And then you have your city hall, that's where your COO lives, and that's where all your operations and stuff take place. That's you have your, big factory, and that's the business product development, etc. And it was really fun for me because I used like some of these IDEs like Replit and Lovable and Cursor to make this game. And I actually was able to publish my first video game. And it got great reviews and it was really fun because I kind of thought about through this whole process, how do I build music? I was already using AI for music, and this is only just a couple months ago. And then I said, well, now I'll do it for video games. So once you find a workflow, what you're trying to do is it's a resonance that doesn't change the fundamentals of whatever craft you're working within. Um, so the convergence, builder as artist, this is something that I think maybe I have a unique perspective on, but I think we all have these sides of ourselves. Whether you've taken a Myers-Briggs test or assessment or a DISC assessment, we have things that we're very, very strong in that are our dominant areas, but we all have these things, even if they're latent in us. So just as engineers use tools like Cloud Code, and this is happening now, I mean, around the world, people are shipping basically products on a daily basis. Musical artists can use these things too and just boom, make a great song. They maybe change a couple things. If you have the advanced version of Suno, you can go into the editor. You can kind of change some of the backup vocals or you can remove things or add them. But it looks exactly like the traditional music software programs that I'm used to using. And when I was at Berklee School of Music in Boston, Massachusetts, I was using these things just to like figure them out. And now the experience, the user experience is almost identical, but the AI power is like on a whole other level. So the roles of the producer and product manager have merged into a single identity. So not everybody is in entertainment. I've been in entertainment for a long time. When I say that everybody is a product manager, it's the same way that everybody is a content producer or content creator every time that they publish something to Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever. You all are content creators. Same, very similar. Now we're reaching an even smaller and smaller margin of error. Same thing can be applied to product management. But those product managers always, and same as producers, have a filter and have an ability and a strength and a power to filter for quality and resonance. And that becomes a really key point in this convergence of these worlds. Cool, Toby, you're awesome. I just like looking at that screen for encouragement. So mission and vision. So I'm currently working on a new project. It's codenamed Sentinel, but the idea is an on-demand app-based personal security, providing certificated clandestine bodyguards, think of like Secret Service agents, who will actually follow you around when you want to have some support, when you feel like you're going into an unsafe environment, when you just don't want to be alone. There's a lot of different reasons to use this from a B2C basis. And then we're also building partnerships in the B2B realm. Imagine, being the guy who drops off, $1,000 of jewels, or $10 million in jewels rather, to like some jewel conference somewhere in Montana or Idaho, and you're driving cross state, you may want to call for some backup. So that's kind of the vision that we have here. So we've been working on this for a little while. We're finding some fresh wind in our sales. And I think it's a pretty fun. If you want to actually take a screenshot or check out, you can actually get the app on your Android devices there. That's that QR code. And I would love for you to join me in the user testing piece. If you all are up in the San Francisco Bay Area, I'll have to go up there and connect with you all and start to uh, continue to build out our number of security guards who are on the platform. So that being said, I'm in the middle of building right now. So I'm not speaking to you all as someone who is like, hit my stride and I'm just happy to sit back and watch this world change. I am like, sleeves rolled up every day in the work for this new app. And when I'm testing these things, I'm going to go back to the walkthrough versus the demo versus the user test, because I think that that's a really practical branching of how every single person on this call can start to actually flex their product manager muscle, if you will. And that's, you could be your product. It could be something that you just put together in Lovable or AI, Google AI Studio, or you use Claude for whatever it is. Why don't you, as your homework assignment, if you will, I don't think homework even exists anymore, to tell you the truth, but if you want to, why don't you all think about running one of these three things? So if you do the walkthrough technique, you want to like step by step hold the hand of the user and then see every potential concern that they're giving through this entire journey. If you want to do the demo, you can kind of do the show off value, which is like, ta-da, you're selling this thing to whoever. That's sometimes fun just to do, and maybe you'll make a bunch of money from it. And then the other one is when you're letting the user drive, user test. These are three styles. I do come from an executive coaching background. So, you have the high D style, you have the high I style, you have the C's and the S's. This is literally really more of like, you're letting them coach you, and you're not controlling, but you're letting them show you the things that maybe you haven't seen. This is one of the reasons why LLMs and AI have so taken off, is because people have realized that we have, as humans, are fallible, that we make mistakes. And so a lot of people, younger generations, older generations, whoever is using this technology is using it to basically eradicate or at least mitigate the gate of human error in our lives. And it's a really great way to use it. If you're using it for different things in your life, there's an absolute easy way for you to start to use this to become a better product manager yourself.